Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, the 27th Board of Selectmen's meeting. I think one last time we'll have Chris lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Anything for citizens input? Thank you. We'll go right to COVID update, Bill.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we do have some good news to report, and that is that that we've had, our numbers have gone down. We're staying stable at 3.7% impact rate, and so we're currently slightly lower, and right now we're about we're averaging around 26.7 cases per 100,000. So, which is good news. We're trending in the right direction, which is great to hear. Based on the current numbers, the health department urges all residents to continue to wear masks in public, keep 6 feet away, and distance between each other and other people, get vaccinated and stay home, and tested if you show any kind of signs of COVID-19. On the vaccination front, all Massachusetts residents 16 years of age or older are now eligible to receive a vaccine. Residents who have not been vaccinated are urged to sign up or pre-register for a vaccine at vaccine signup.mass.gov. Currently, the state reports a total of 5.7 million people have vaccinations have been administered within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As of Friday, April 23rd, the FDA and CDC have lifted the pause on the J&J vaccine. Providers can now resume administering the J&J vaccine effective immediately. And with respect to the reopening of Massachusetts, the town has expected the following changes in the Massachusetts reopening plan subject to COVID data. And a lot of this information was as late as this afternoon from the governor. Effective April 30th, face coverings will not be required outside in public when people can socially distance from each other. Face coverings will not be required at events in private homes, but are recommended. Effective May 10th, 2021, Gillette Stadium and other large-scale venues will move from 12% capacity to 25% capacity. Singing will be allowed indoors at restaurants, provided the establishment follows the performance venue standards. Road races will be allowed to occur with an appropriate COVID safety plan approved by the local Board of Health and Department of Public Health. Amusement parks and water parks will be able to reopen subject to capacity restrictions. Effective May 29th, the gathering limits will increase to 200 people indoors and 250 people outdoors. Bars, beer gardens, and distilleries may reopen subject to restaurant standards. Food will not be required to be ordered with drinks. Street festivals, parades, and agricultural festivals may take place at 50% capacity. Effective August 1st, all businesses will be able to reopen subject to prospective opening standards. Now, just another note about that, I did see the governor's press conference this afternoon, and when he made that announcement, he also noted that if the numbers continue to trend in the right direction, which they have been, he may actually open it earlier than August 1st. So that's good news, and so we're clearly heading in the right direction at this point in time. I did see that the president's announcements came in right during the governor's conference, press conference, and he more or less indicated to everybody that, face coverings on the outside. He ceremoniously walked to the podium with a face covering on. He took it off, and then he walked away from it with it off. So to sort of signify the fact that there's now no need to do it while you're outdoors. But he did say, of course, that they are stepping up and continuing to step up efforts to encouraging people to get vaccinated. That even though the numbers, what I saw for numbers this morning, indicated to me that vaccines are, people are getting their first vaccine but not getting their second one, and they need to do that, obviously, because that's a really important aspect of this, unless you're taking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is only a one-shot deal. So all in all, it's good news to report. WBZ reached out to me this afternoon on radio and asked me if I would give a few comments relative to the concert season, which we know doesn't exist at this point in time. though I do know that with the numbers, with the numbers opening, with the businesses reopening as of August 1st, we do think the prospect of things happening in the fall have increased during that time frame. So I think that's good news for all of us, and we may see something happening. I'm going to stay in close contact with the folks with the craft group to make sure that we keep you posted on any new developments in that front. They are trying to locate some shows, but the challenge they face is different than, say, like a place like Xfinity or some of the smaller venues, is that to get into Gillette, it's a bigger responsibility, bigger show, obviously, so it requires a lot more setup time and logistics to put in place in order to make that happen. So it's, so that said, we're going to remain optimistic that we may see more than just soccer and lacrosse and football this year, though that's not a bad thing. And we're glad to see that the stadium's going to get back to full operations sooner rather than later, which is great to see. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Great news. Thank you, Bill.
Question on the August 1st date. So you said back to 100% like pre-COVID stuff, like no...
Yeah, 100% reopening. So now, of course, what that means is that there will no longer be requirements of things, but they're going to still, I suspect they're still going to recommend things such as, face coverings,
suggest
and
this,
recommends and suggest that things happen in a safe order. And I suspect that certain requirements will be put in place to continue to provide safe practices for everyone. And I fully expect that the CDC is going to come out with new direction in terms of vaccinations. There may be a booster shot that people have to get in the fall. I've been hearing that as well, so we may see that happen. And I think as long as we continue to trend in the right direction and people follow the guidelines and be responsible about it, I think we'll continue to be in a good position. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
We have a public hearing at 7:15, so let's do some action items. Fill a little gap.
All right, the first one, move to approve a pool table license for 2 coin-operated pool tables for T&O Walker Incorporated, DBA Rally Point Inn and Pub, to expire 5/1/22.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Move to approve a pool table license for 2 coin-operated pool tables for Foxborough VFW to expire 5/1/22.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Move to accept 12 donated picnic tables from Schneider Electric to the Recreation Department.
Second.
Any further discussion? Under discussion, are those going to be up for the, up on the common? Additional?
I think I saw them over
Yeah, I
at the
think
playground.
they're going to be at the playground.
Okay.
They're already there.
I think
Okay.
they're there.
And I have to say, the fields look amazing. I think I've been up there every day this week, and they're in really good shape. There's new barrels, too.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of talk about trash barrels. Those are all out. Looks great.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're
Okay.
starting to get there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then the last one, motion to authorize the 17 Centennial Street deed for land transfer from the town of Foxborough to the Foxborough Housing Authority.
Second.
And under further discussion, that's just,
That's the final step in that process. We had to wait for the actual deed to appear, which we've received, and it's been reviewed by town council. And this is the final step in that process, so we'll be glad to see that transformation take place eventually on that parcel.
And we've already done market to Centennial?
That's been the next phase.
That's the
when we
next
do-
one, so this is kind of step
This is
one.
step one, and we have to do what'll happen is once we clear the hurdles of passing papers on the other property, that'll all come together at once.
Okay.
Okay?
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Looking at my clock, because that one's off a little bit. We still got 5 minutes.
Our public hearing notice, though, actually says 7 PM, so I would
Oh, I thought it
think,
was 7:15.
I mean, I'm reading it does on the agenda, but on the hearing notice, it says 7.
I may have printed the incorrect one, just the time is incorrect, but everything else is correct.
Yeah, so I'm saying, I don't know if we need to wait, though, if the public hearing notice says 7.
Let's go to that next then.
All right, you ready for me to notice, or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, beginning at 7 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Mass. Meeting to be held virtually, instructions to be provided when the Board of Selectmen meeting agenda is posted. In accordance with MGL Chapter 140, Section 157, and Chapter 78 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, to hold a nuisance dog hearing resulting from an incident that occurred on March 9th, 2021, in the Cannon Forge neighborhood involving Diego, a small-haired Chihuahua, owner Molly Rosenweiser of 12 Rhodes Lane, and Bella of Vizsla Stafford Mix, owners Charity and Scott O'Connor of 6 Umet Lane.
Yep.
All right. Do we have Casey on?
She's on, she should be getting on soon, and we have Molly on as well.
No, I think we should have Casey.
There we
Casey?
Yes, she's there.
Oh, okay, there you are. Hi, Casey.
Hi.
So Casey, we just read the public meeting notice, and now it's off to you.
All right, sounds good. So I will start with the report. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I was having some issues with my computer. On March 17th, 2021, I received a notice from Foxborough Animal Hospital of a bite that occurred on March 9th involving Diego, a small long-haired Chihuahua. The owner was Molly Rosenwasser of 12 Rhodes Lane. Ms. Rosenwasser had also called and left a voicemail stating her dog had been attacked and had to receive emergency surgery. I contacted Ms. Rosenwasser and asked her if she knew who the dog or owner was. She gave me the dog owner's name and number, and I was able to obtain the remainder of the information via the dog license system. The dog's name is Bella, a Vizsla Staffordshire mixed female, approximately 6 years old. The owners are Charity and Scott Connor of 6 Almet Lane. I asked Ms. Rosenwasser to explain the event of what occurred. She stated she was walking Diego on a path in the Cannon Forge neighborhood, which she frequently does. She was crossing a small part of the path when she observed Bella walking in her direction on leash with Miss Connor. She stated she had encountered Miss Connor and Bella walking through the area before and had never had an issue when passing Bella with Diego. However, this was a narrow area of the path, so she picked up Diego and moved to the side of the path to allow Miss Connor and her dog to pass. When Bella approached where Miss Rosenwasser was standing, she stated Bella grabbed Diego by the back end and ripped him from her arms and began shaking him. She stated it was a little blurry what happened, but remember it was difficult for her and Miss Connor to separate the two, and at one point had gotten Diego loose and Bella managed to grab a hold of him again. Once they were able to get Diego free, she quickly rushed him to Foxborough Animal Hospital due to the injuries he had sustained, but was able to obtain Miss Connor's information in the meantime. According to medical records received from the animal hospital, Diego was sedated and had multiple drains and sutures placed. However, the exact amount of punctures was not listed in the medical notes and instead just stated many bite wounds. Ms. Rosenwasser did note that she had been in frequent contact with Ms. Connor about the medical care and status of Diego. I also requested pictures of Diego in place of meeting him in person, since according to his medical record and owner, he seemed to still be nervous and in pain and did not want to cause any unnecessary stress for him. I then contacted Ms. Connor and left a message for her to contact me back regarding the incident. When I arrived at my office on March 18th, I had not yet heard back from Ms. Connor, so I contacted her again and she quickly called me back this time. When we spoke, I first asked her to tell the event that occurred that day. She told me that she and Bella were walking and usually would stay on the wider paths or walkways, but had decided to go a different way this day, taking Bella through the narrow walkway. She stated they saw Miss Rosenwasser and her dog, and they had encountered them previously on walks. She stated she was unsure why, but when passing Bella just jumped up and grabbed Diego. She said once they got Diego free from Miss Rosenwasser quickly left for the vet. Ms. Connor stated she had been in frequent contact with Ms. Rosenwasser and was paying for all the medical bills incurred from the incident. She stated Bella was her father's dog and he had passed away, and her husband, Scott Connor, had moved Bella up with them from Connecticut. She stated Bella was a service dog for her father and she had received training for this and offered to provide the documentation of the training. Prior to that, Bella was a rescue dog, and at the time of adoption, they were informed she had been abused prior to arriving at the rescue. I met with the Connors at the residence to issue a bite quarantine for Bella. When I entered the house, Bella seemed fearful and nervous. She had her head lowered and was visibly shaking. She slowly approached me, but did not come within reach of me, and then retreated back to her bed where she stayed the remainder of my visit. And that was basically the process of it. She went through a quarantine and was fine when released. So
Thank you, Casey. We see, well, any questions from the board for us? Could you talk about your recommendations, Casey? It seems like everybody's been on board with everything and.
Yeah, so both dog owners are aware of what my recommendations are. They both agree that Bella be deemed a nuisance dog at this time. I do recommend that she be muzzled and leashed anytime that she's taken off property, and that she be confined or leashed when on the property and supervised at all times. I also recommended that they seek further behavior training with a professional for her.
And then any comments about either of the parties? Connors or the Wassermans?
I think they are both.
They're both zooming in, but does anyone want
Yeah.
anything to say?
For me, I don't have any questions right now. I think we're all set. I think that we basically worked through it, and Diego's parents were very, very, very kind through the whole thing, given the circumstances. So we appreciate their, the cooperation, and yeah. So I feel like we've kind of worked through it now.
Yeah, I agree. And we agree with the recommendations from animal control. Diego is really doing well now, so we're also happy to report that.
Thank you.
Oh, good. That's good.
Good, thank you. Any questions from the board? Seems pretty straightforward. Okay, all right, I'll.
Take a motion. Okay. Motion to deem Bella a nuisance dog and require Bella to be muzzled and leashed anytime she's taken off property, and Bella to be leashed and/or confined within a fence on the property and supervised, with a strong recommendation that the owners of Bella, Charity and Scott Connor, seek behavior training with a professional trainer.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Just want to mention, thank you both parties for, working through it all. It's very difficult for those of us that are dog owners to go through something like that. Very hard for us here on the Board of Selectmen to make tough decisions, but when all those tough decisions were already made before you came before us, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good
Thank you.
night. Thank you. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Casey.
So, the next public hearing does say 7:30 on it, so, but I think that's the next one up, so let's skip over to,
Chairman, if you like, Mike and I can give our
I
reports.
was
if
going
you'd
to say
like.
Mike first. Yeah, Mike, you were cut short last time.
Sure.
A little extra time now. Don't go any,
You got 20 minutes.
Chris got a limit on you.
So first, I did send out the town manager's self-evaluation to all of you today. Bill actually sent it to me last week. I was away on vacation, so I got it to you today. If you could get it back to, as I mentioned, to our office by the, what did I say, the 12th? And then,
Yeah,
so that gives you a couple of weeks to work on it. And then it'll be prepared, the composite evaluation for you to review at your May 25th meeting. Does anyone on the board have any questions on either the process or the form or anything of that sort? There was one question that came up in the past, and I did research it, and that was, are we, with heightened awareness on open meeting law and new training we've had, is there any problem with a board member being involved in that? And the answer is no. The specifics of the open meeting law through the Department of Open Governance does talk about, that it shouldn't just go to one board member. And so we don't do that. So it comes back, and then the chair is involved in the compiling of that composite evaluation. So I've asked that those come back both to the executive assistant and our human resources specialist, and then they'll be compiled along with the board. and that does meet the open meeting law requirements, and also avoids us violating any personnel record, problems.
But yeah, so that was the only question.
Okay, that was the only one that was posed to me so far.
And then would review it on the 25th, we're thinking? Like that meeting? Just
Yes.
looking at the timing? Okay. And then I sent something along, I don't know if you'd seen it, but if you try to print it, it cuts off the comments. So I know a lot of the board had preferred paper, so they'll run into the same situation. So,
So what I can do is I can take all of the comments from Bill's self-evaluation, and I can extract those, put them into a Word document so you see them all in a row. What I did is I gave you pretty large boxes and small font, but if you do write a lot, it does overfill the box, and you've got to use your cursor to go up and down. But I can, in fact, I will do that. I'll print those comments so that you can, have them all in view if you want those side by side as you're writing your evaluation. And I can send that out to the board tomorrow.
Thank you.
So next is the, several weeks ago, we did launch the civic HR applicant tracking system. It's working very well. We do have a couple of new job postings up there, and I'd like to talk about those briefly. So we had a position that we had for several years that we found that we weren't getting the bang for the buck that we really expected to when this position was first, and this was a brand new position, and that was the IT/business systems analyst. So we eliminated that position, and we used the funds from that position to fill two positions which we have found to be necessary. We've known have been necessary for some time, and our auditors have been recommending that we take these steps to further compartmentalize some of the functions in our finance department. So not all towns have a consolidated finance department. We do. We have assessors, accounting, treasurer, collector, all in one. But even though they're together, there still needs to be a separation of duties. So your treasurer collector shouldn't also be doing the accounting, which we are not doing that. So two of the positions are procurement administrator, and that will centralize our procurement functions. Right now, we have procurement going, through many of the departments, and on the advice of our auditor and our own self-evaluation, we think that's important to use a purchase ordering system, which has been used for years on the school side. We have just started using the purchase order system on the town side recently for purchases over $50,000. Once this position is in place, we'll use that for purchases of $10,000 and up. And then the next position is a benefits administrator. And that's, there's functions within this position that fall within a couple of departments. We're going to put that on this one person. So the ACA, or the federal reportings, have gotten very complicated. The accruals, which are time, which time equals money, we have to accumulate and account for those. So that's going to fall into this position. Those two positions are fully funded within that position that we did eliminate. We needed these more than the others. And we did meet this morning with Bob Brown, who is our town auditor, and he had reinforced the importance of the direction we're going, and he thought those are sound financial practices as well as solid management practices. The other position, there are a couple, but one of the main ones is chief assessor. So later this year, Hannah Simons, our chief assessor, will be retiring after many years of service. Yeah. And we know that this is one of those positions that there aren't a lot of these people who are fully trained and ready in the municipal sector. So we're starting early with the advertisement of this position so that we're ready to go when she does retire. We don't have an exact retirement date on, for her yet, but we want to be ready when it comes. And another one is an administrative assistant position, which has existed within the finance department under the assessors division, all along, but we have not filled that for some time. And we're going to be filling that. This is a position that ebbs and flows in the assessors division, depending on, when they're doing their assessing, when they're sending out their tax bills, et cetera. And so we're going to use this position also during those slower periods to provide administrative assistant support within the finance department. So that's what's going on within civic HR and jobs that are posted currently. Are there any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
No. Good.
So if I followed that right, and maybe I'm not following it correct, we took a part-time position, but are adding 2 full-time?
No. So the IT business systems analyst was a full-time position.
Okay,
Out of Unit A, and we're adding 2 full-time positions into Unit B. And the dollar amount is actually a little less for the 2 positions than it was for the 1 position.
okay, and we don't have to go through town meeting for anything with that?
Correct. Correct. The funding is already there, and it's actually a very small amount of savings, but it's addressing 2 really critical needs. Whereas we found the other position, it just didn't give us the bang for the buck that we thought we were going to need 3 years ago. And the reason for that is mainly that position was for implementing new IT systems. Most of those systems have been implemented. We're over the hurdle on that, and now we're on to some other needs.
So was that position, was that one vacant currently?
Yes,
No.
it's vacant now.
Well, yes, it's vacant now.
Yeah,
okay.
It's been vacant for a couple of months.
Okay.
How about the cost of like benefit and pension, figuring all that in?
Yeah, even with the, benefits, pension, and all of that, that still falls within the 1 position. So we're in good shape financially, and again, strong, we think we're doing, very good management and financial practice and moving in this direction.
Typically, if the auditors are recommending stuff, you have to take a serious look at it, so.
Yeah. And this is one, just so I'm not mistaken, it wasn't pointing out any sort of error or any sort of gap or problem that we had. It's just that, as Mr. Brown pointed out this morning and then previously during our audit, I said, this is a complex town. You've got a lot going on. It's not a little, 5,000 population. You really have to work hard to separate those duties because some of the smaller towns, they've got a little accounting office and then down the hall, a little treasurer's office. So we do have it on purpose in 1 location, but we just have to be very purposeful about segregating those duties, so we stay in good shape.
And I'm sure you know my question about, I've brought this up before about putting the benefits in the finance function. I get that was what we did because I think under the old regime, that was what was preferred. However, I don't necessarily know that that makes the most sense from a reporting structure going forward, that this person wouldn't fall under like you and Sarah and be part of that team. And I understand the cross with Munis and all that, but in my opinion, if I was in HR, I would want this function kind of under that team.
They will be they'll be cross-connected in that respect. So there's still going to be, while the organizational structure will be set up with that person reporting directly to finance, the functions that we're looking at primarily right now is that under municipal finance, the health insurance programs typically report to the treasurer collector. All right, so it's structured that way. So this position will be in finance because of that reason. And on top of that, because of the same thing with the pension as well, it typically goes through the treasurer collector. Now, as far as the actual benefits themselves, those continue to be managed through the HR function.
Yeah.
So it's the financial pieces that we're really going to be managing. That as well as the data points, such as the leave programs, things of that nature, will be managed through this position as well.
Oh, this person will do leaves too?
They'll do leaves, yeah, they do leaves as well, which is something that obviously is difficult to track, but it really needs to be tied into payroll.
Who's doing
So-
that now, though? That's not a payroll function.
Well,
Leave
it's-
management.
Yeah, it's actually being done through Sarah, as an HR function.
So,
Yeah,
so that
very,
was a.
very complicated.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And that was a function that actually came under our assistant accountant, at one point. And then, our previous finance director moved on, our assistant accountant, moved into that position temporarily. So we had to kind of parse out those duties. So those fell upon, especially the accruals and tracking and reporting of those fell upon our human resources specialist. And so now, rather than moving them back onto our, assistant finance director slash, director of accounting, she's taken a much bigger role, and she's the one who's actually moved us towards what I think is a much smarter purchase order system. We want her managing some of those larger things, but we also want to make sure that somebody is keeping track of these leaves and the liability that comes with it and the reporting. So that will be, as Bill mentioned, that'll be a position that is tied both to myself and to the treasurer collector. But we know you can't have two bosses, so it will report to finance. But I'm in the finance department at least 3 times a day, usually in the treasurer collector's office or the finance director's office, and I'll continue to be. So it's not like I'm not going to see this person.
Yeah.
We'll be truly connected.
And I want to be clear about the fact, too, that the interpretation of and applicability of certain leaves will continue to fall with HR. It's the more the
It's just the
mechanical.
processing?
It's the mechanical and processing that's the piece that
I was gonna say, I think you'll
we're
have a hard time, that's almost like a generalist that you're
Yeah,
looking for,
exactly.
reading this, but,
So
We don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So like FMLA, the FFCRA, those sort of things would still stay
Okay.
strictly in HR.
okay,
Yeah, that's a confidential HR function. We're talking about accrual of vacation, accrual of sick leave, those sort of things.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us right to 7:30. Next public hearing.
all right. The Board of Selectmen, acting as local licensing authority pursuant to MGL Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, April 27th, beginning at 7:30 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., meeting to be held virtually, on the stock transfer and change of manager application for an off-premises annual all-alcohol beverage license for the Foxborough Country Store Incorporated, DBA The Country Store, 212 North Street, Foxborough, Mass. Proposed manager, Krupaben Patel. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
All right.
Yes.
Bill, do you want to give us a little background on this real quick?
Well, sure, to the extent that I can. I think what you have here, Mr. Chairman, is that the owners have decided to move on and have sold their operation to a new owner,
Okay.
or a potential owner, and that this is the mechanical piece of transferring the ownership of the property, as well as, but because it involves the sale of alcohol, you still have to transfer the materials, things of that nature have to be done through this board.
Okay. And do we have the manager on?
Yes.
She seems to be
Good
driving.
Yes.
This is Attorney John Moradian from Democus Law Offices. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and with me is Krupa Patel. Just to clarify the select board's statement there, Manesh Kumar is selling a portion of his ownership interest, so he'll remain with the corporation, the same owner. Neil Patel, Krupa's husband, is buying into the corporation. So the stock transfer is going to be 60% Manesh Kumar Patel and 40% Neil Patel. And the new manager of record is Krupa Patel, who's here tonight for the change of manager. Krupa is tip certified. She's been working at the store as a cashier for a while now. She's experienced in alcohol sales, and the store has had a good record over there. So those are only 2 changes tonight.
Talk to her when she's.
Do you want to pull over? I feel like this is like that surgeon that dialed in for surgery.
Yeah, Cooper, I don't think we really want to talk to you while you're driving.
That's fine. I have AirPod on, so I'm not looking at the camera actually.
Rupert, could you pull over real quick just to answer any questions they have?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Would you tell us a little bit about your experience? Or not?
So much for that idea.
And I work there every day, 7 days a week.
Cooper, we lost you.
Yes.
Start from the beginning again?
Still driving. You can see everything moving.
My husband, he bought a part of the store from Manish Patel, and I work there 7 days a week.
Hey, Doc, stop her. This
Yeah,
is.
she's driving.
Yeah, are you still driving, Cooper?
Can you pull over, Krupa?
Actually, I think I lost the internet somewhere. I think where am right now. No, I pulled over. Okay, let me just pull over so that way
Thank you.
it's easier for me too. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
so I work at the country. I work at the country store 7 days a week right now, since like almost a year and a half now.
And you're
Every
tip
single day.
certified?
Yes, tip certified.
Did we lose her?
She is tip certified. I can email the certificate to Katie Lang if that's what
Yes.
you. You there, Krupa?
Yes, I'm here.
Krupa, can you just tell the board you're tip certified in alcohol sales?
Yes, I'm tip certified in alcohol sales, beer and wine license. Yes, I did. I did my certification in December.
Any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Any questions from the
You
board?
guys have any question for me?
Mr. Chairman, Katie, do you have anything you want to add to this discussion? Katie?
Nothing to add. The application came incomplete from John's office. So there's nothing really to report. Everything has been uploaded to board docs for review.
Is there any outstanding issues with them as far as the ABCC or anything that the board should be concerned with?
Nope, no outstanding issues. There was just the state fine that they found that they were selling after the 9 p.m. curfew from the governor, but that was resolved. They, they had their penalty of a weekend of no sales. Foxborough PD checked in on that, so that seemed to be all set. And the ABCC reinstated their license, I believe it was like 2 days after that weekend. But that was a state issue. We had nothing to do with it. So when I checked with the ABCC, they are currently in good standing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Sure.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question for town manager. Do you know if the police department has had any incidents involving the current license holder?
Not that I'm aware of. That's the reason I checked with Katie to see if there was anything that was outstanding against them, and the answer is no. To my understanding, they're in good standing.
But this is the one that was shut down for the weekend by the state for selling,
state.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was the previous owner.
Right.
I'm not aware of anything
Okay.
for the new owner as well.
And the chief is actually very vocal if anything was ever to come up. He actually was the one to first tell me about the state issue, and we kind of worked closely together to make sure that they were following up, that they were in fact closed. So he hasn't said anything that would make me think otherwise, that they're not in good standing with local PD.
It's a fair question, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Guess we'll move to close the public hearing. And no one's texting in or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
All right, move to close the public hearing?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, move to approve the change of manager from Anish Kumar Patel to Krupa Ben Patel for Foxborough Country Store Incorporated, DBA The Country Store.
Second.
Any further discussion? I really just have one comment, Cooper, and I apologize. I guess it's really bugging the heck out of all us board members that somewhere along the line you're still driving. I think, this is an important enough board hearing that somewhere along the line you should have stopped, pulled over, and taken care of us first.
I'm sorry for that. I was at work. I was waiting to get our turn, but I didn't get my turn, so that's why I left. But I'm sorry about that.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Motion to approve the stock transfer from Manish Kumar Patel to Niall Patel for Foxborough Country Store Incorporated, doing business as the Country Store.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, we've got a review of the Shoveltown Brewery's conditions. I think they've gone back and forth amongst us for a while now. I think we have a last draft of it that we all got. Any questions?
I don't think so. I think the only thing, so town council has seen this, just going back to all that, we're all good.
Yeah.
I think the only real issue at this stage of the game is the fee for the license. I'd like to hear everybody's thought on that, but I'll hear everybody's thought first before me.
I can go first.
Go ahead.
It's irritating me, I'll say, that we're having this discussion again at this point. In January, I talked to Bill about our existing business owners. When a business came to me about the licensing fees, they're renewing with the Board of Health, and it was a slippery slope, and it's not something we should look at. I wanted to use maybe the EDC funds to help. I totally understand the position of Shoveltown, and I understand that side of it. However, it's getting to be an irritant to me that we're talking about this again to reduce fees for something that, I think we're trying to be creative and make this work, but I'm not looking to reduce fees at this point for something, you're applied for this as it is. So it's a hard no from me.
I'm not tracking what you're talking about back in January, so excuse me for that.
So back in January, a local restaurant had reached out to me and said, it's really tough. We're renewing our alcohol fees. We've got all these fees with the Board of Health. What can we do? And I had talked to Bill, and he'd said, it's a slippery slope. I don't want to get into reducing fees, because then what do you do about taxpayers? And, our existing businesses here in town, we're not reducing fees for them. We're not reducing fees for taxpayers. We're not reducing things for seniors. I don't know how a new business in town that hasn't been here. And I get what you guys are saying about what the fee would be for the year. I just don't think this does not sit with me that we're talking about this, reducing fees before they've even opened.
See, I'm personally thinking of it not necessarily as reducing fees. We have the ability as the selectmen to determine what those fees are. And I think in an instant like this, in just, I don't want to say common sense, but I think this is an instance where the other fee is just astronomical when compared to what a normal year-long alcohol fee would be, which is $1,500.
So on the flip side,
I know that there is a fee for individual licenses, but we had to go that route due to the fact that he didn't really fall under the farmer's pour license. So again, we're in a little bit of which this whole situation was in between a lot of different, we're trying to fit a round peg into a round hole, and that's what we've been doing this whole situation with Shoveltown. So I think this is the last thing that to allow them to go forward, I think the $1,500 is more than enough. We're not waiving fees, we're just being prudent? No, prudent isn't the right word. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. But we're not waiving fees, and $1,500 is still a chunk of money for 3 months, no, 5 months worth of them being open.
And once they do open, they do have a different, so the farmer's pourer's license is not the same as our normal on-premises. And they will not, as I understand it, have to pay the $5,000 bond that everyone else does have to either.
No, that's not true. They still will be subject to that bond.
Wormtown did? I didn't
Because
think that they did.
Because it's a new license for that premises.
Are we sure that under the farmer's pourers?
Pretty certain. I think we charged Wormtown for the same status.
I mean, I do think we're making this work, and I think we're bending over backwards, you know, to make it work, and in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, we're making this work. But we are reducing fees. This has always been the $50 per day. It's $4,500, you know, is what it would be, you know. I just don't feel right about it to our existing businesses that aren't having fees reduced. So it's not necessarily about Shoveltown, it's about equity amongst every other business that's struggling right now, you know, that's out there.
Just so you know, just so everyone knows, it's not a bond that a new liquor license is gives to the town. It's actually a fee for economic development. It goes into its own particular fund, and Wormtown was charged that. So when Shoveltown goes for its all alcohol beverage for the
Farmer's pour license.
firehouse, they'll be charged that as well.
Yeah.
The way I
I'm
look
saying for
at,
the economic development fee.
the way I look at like the one-day licenses, because over the last 6 years, we've approved a lot of them. Usually 1 day at a time, maybe 2 days. So, you know, the $50 fee fits. We've never had a situation where somebody's before us, and they weren't originally before us for, you know, the 1 day licenses. They didn't, you know, that was, you know, after the fact. So I'm in agreement with Doc. I mean, we're looking at a business that wants to invest permanently in this town, to charge them $4,800. You know, I came up with the same number, like $500 for each set of 30s, I think is fine. And that was, you know, you look at all of the other towns around that are doing the same exact thing. It's not like we're doing anything different than other towns.
Katie, you did a little research on that, didn't you?
Actually, I can take credit for that. It was nothing that I sought out to help the applicant. It was the applicant himself, Frank, that did all the research. So if you do look into board docs, there was some research he did, particular for Boston and the 1 day license fee they have. I'm going to try to pull it up. I don't know if I'll still be on camera, but I'll be talking. It's interesting to see what he found. Bill, do you have the exact figures in front of you?
Hold on 1 second here.
I'm going to bring them up at the same time. Apologies.
So
I got them.
Yeah, it looks like in Boston, the fees are,
Boston for an all alcoholic beverage license is $150 per day.
Yeah, that's
a
right.
malt and wine beverage is $75 a day. And if the licensee is granted for 30 consecutive days, the fee is a total of $250 for an all alcoholic beverage license and $175 for a malt and wine beverage license. Multiple breweries, including Night Shift, Trillium, Sam Adams, Wachusett, Cisco, Down East, and Castle Island, have all taken advantage of this. So it is a significant
reduction.
decrease in terms of for 1 day, and then what they give for a consecutive 30 days.
And same in Brockton and Ashland also did similar decreases.
Right. So for example, at their Provo location in Brockton, they paid $500 for 30 days. And then Ashland, they have a 1 day fee of $25 a day, and they cap that at $100. And the breweries that took advantage of this were Zealous, Exhibit A, Lost Shoe, and Flying Dreams. Just to give some research for perspective.
Maybe the other way to look at this is, and Lee, I understand your point. You make some valid points. So I think we all recognize that there's a concern, and I recognize the concern very clearly. I think the issue, though, is the way that you can look at this is that if we were to charge them for a full year's license, which they're only going to use 5 months of this, it would have still been $1,500 for the full year, all right? So I wouldn't view it as being that we're reducing fees, but more, the board is reducing fees, that more as they're charging what they would have been for the entire year, but actually charging for a full year, but only using it for 5 months. So in many ways, they are paying a premium for the license, even on top of that. So that's the other way of looking at it from the perspective of is it fair in that respect? And it's like, the other way to do it is like $4,500 it's $4,500 for the 3 licenses. I think it's $1,500 regardless if the first 30. But I think the question is, what would the charge be for the next 30 and next 60 and 90? So
I mean, yeah, really, we're here to approve 30.
right.
I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves. Even approving, like,
Well, it is important though, Leah, because these people are making an investment for this process. And I think if they know that that's going to be a cost up front that they have to consider. They need to know that as part of their business plan. So I think in fairness, they should know the full deal before they embark upon it. And that's the other way of looking at it.
And we can certainly look at it for $500 for each 30-day license. I think you mentioned that, Chris.
Yeah.
So,
how about Ed?
oh, I'm sorry, Ed.
The license fee, I would go with what we had originally talked about, and not necessarily lowering it. The alcohol component is the biggest moneymaker I perceive from my exposure. And as a result, I think it poses the biggest risk for any operator that's doing over-the-counter sales to the public. With regard to the overall process, 4 weeks ago when we first heard about this project, I remember hearing the fact that the food court, the area would be shutting down at like 8 o'clock at night. And then 2 weeks ago, we find out, oh no, we're going to do longer than that, which has an impact on the houses that are behind it, as well as the apartments in that immediate area. Already, you have several liquor establishments in the immediate area that pose problems, and we don't know what this particular operation will end up with. And that's why I'm very leery of, necessarily moving forward or making things happen that I don't think I've ever seen anything move so quick in town government.
I don't think any time was spared in doing any of this. I think the research and the amount of hours that was put into this was definitely warranted, and we spent an incredible amount of time on each of the last couple of Board of Selectmen meeting minutes talking about it. I see your page. Give me just a sec. But also, I don't think the 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock was always part of the original plan that they sent us. I think earlier in the process, there was thought that maybe it was to 8. But once we got their official document and request, it had always said 10 o'clock. Paige?
Sure, I just wanted to address what Ed just said about the timing. And while for us, actually, it feels like we've been talking about this forever, it really was only a couple months, and I could see where it might look like it's moving quickly. But if you talk to any of the restaurants that I've issued or we've issued permits to in the past 2 or 3 weeks, you would hear them say that we are moving so fast. Rally Point, Union Straw got theirs in one business day. So yes, we are moving quickly on certain things. We are trying to help our restaurants recover and maintain through the pandemic. If we could find ways to help other industries, the restaurant seems to be the one that we're all kind of with this flexible, outdoor dining and whatnot. We've been given tools for. So, but I did want to acknowledge that, yes, this is definitely outside of the box for all of us. And typically we're working with a lot more constraints. But right now we really are trying to support, the industry and the community, because we've really heard a lot of overwhelming support for this type of use. And we really think it's going to be a neighborhood asset. I hope I don't eat my words, but I don't think this is going to be just necessarily a big party zone. My understanding and my experience with this type of places are very family oriented, very community oriented. So that's the support that's what we're looking for here. And but to Ed, to your point, things are moving quickly, and I will tell you that we're doing it just as quickly for all the restaurants in the community. And I think if you ask any one of them, they would agree.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just curious, normally when something comes in front of us, it's cut and dry, like what we just saw. What have we spent in specialty liquor council? Like, I'm just thinking of, what, like recouping or, the fee is for a reason, I wonder what we've spent in specialty council, given how much this has gone back and forth.
Well, I think, if I look at that number, it's probably somewhere it's probably a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're like breaking even on this,
But we do make money on the
Meals tax.
The meals tax and the beer and wine sales as well. So I do think, yes, it is, it did require, because it was a unique use, it did require some extra time in terms of council to do this. So I do agree that, it was a little bit more expensive up front, but for this one issue, but and I think the point that that Ed raised as well is, we have moved a little bit quicker because this is the time that we're in right now. It requires that we move quicker than normal to try to address these things, so the business community and the community itself has something that can benefit for the time that we're entering in.
And there's a time frame that they need
For
be able to
the
set
season,
up
for the season itself.
and
right.
set up and get started in the time frame they want to get started on. Any other questions?
I mean, I think we've come to a place after lots of discussions, that this works, and it's making it work. I just am not in favor of, I see it a reduction of fees, and it's nothing to do with Shoveltown, it's just I wouldn't feel right talking to another business owner, restaurant owner, who is paying for their, temporary outdoor dining permit, even if it's a $50 thing, just everyone else's fees are kind of the same. So it just doesn't sit well with me. And I understand both sides. I understand exactly what you guys are saying too.
Yeah, because the way I'm looking at, sorry, Chris, was there's no one else that's paying more than $1,500 for an alcohol license.
Wormtown went over 2 years, and they definitely, I think they did almost 60 between, because the clock happened to set, so they did a bunch at the end of football season, then it went in there. So I actually went back and watched all those meetings too. I don't know what their fees total to, but this is not unprecedented with giving more than 30.
I think because their window was pretty small, it was really between September and November is when they actually did it. So they did it during a smaller window. I don't know if they actually.
Nope, the year flipped, and
Yeah,
that's why they were allowed 30 more.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, the first 30 calendar year expired, and the second year.
It essentially
started.
went the duration of football season,
Right.
roughly.
Because of that.
September to February.
Okay.
So going forward, do we have two separate issues here? Do we have the issue of the fee, and then?
You have the issue of the conditions, and I think you should probably act on them separately, because the conditions itself is something that has been detailed and provided to you all, and if you all agree with the conditions, then you should take a vote to either approve or reject those, and then the second vote would be to determine what the fee would be for this particular license. These 30-day licenses, actually potentially to be 90-day license, 91-day licenses.
So this motion wouldn't necessarily, so we're only approving one 30-day license today.
That's
anyway.
correct. That's correct.
And it says to approve the conditions to issue a 30-day one day. So that would cover the conditions portion of the first 30 days.
That's right. And in the.
Yeah, there's
and in the-
nothing here about fees.
Right, we'd have to do that, you'd have to take
And
that up.
and the applicant knows that there was, in the conditions itself, it was noted that the board would revisit this matter within, and it's the timeframes established in it for them to reapply for the remaining 30 licenses and another 30 licenses on top of that.
Okay, so I'll entertain that first motion then, Leah.
Okay, we
you-
haven't even talked about the conditions, though. Are we all good
Oh,
there?
I'm
Yeah, we
comfortable with
kind
the
of jumped right into the
conditions.
fees.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Any questions on the conditions?
Not a condition, but I do feel like, a lot of people have been following this, and there's been a lot of discussions, and, we're looking here at how many pages? Gosh, 5 to 6 pages of conditions that encompass everything from the Board of Health to police to what the planning department and planning board had. So, there's a lot, I feel like everything's covered in here that we've talked about, from dumpsters to dust to lighting to noise.
Rodents.
Yeah, rodents, just letting everyone who may be watching at home understand, everything that's gone into this. And I know Paige has done a ton of work, so thank you, Paige. She's amazing at getting everything kind of together. So, I just want everyone to know it's been a long road, I think, to get us here, or a short, long road. But I think that we've worked together with
was good recovery,
neighbors
by the way. Good
and
recovery.
departments and other boards to make sure that we're at a place that, hopefully will make this as comfortable and successful as possible for everyone.
It includes everything we discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all inclusive.
And just to reiterate too, this is not under temporary dining. I still feel like there's some confusion there. A letter came in from a resident with quotes from the initial meeting when we were talking about farmers' pourers and temporary outdoor dining. So, I think there's some wires crossing there on different meetings and what was being proposed and where we are now. So we're at 31 day under the relaxed zoning from Governor Baker. So anything with all the changes that Governor Baker is announcing, if we're going to be in a stadium, any ideas of them, when this will all be rescinded that it's falling under? I mean, if we're going to have a full stadium on August 1st.
You still have 60 days after August 1st? Right?
It
So
will be
that-
60
Is it
days
60?
after, 60
Yeah.
days, right.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that the board needs to act on that too, to revise your regulations to do that, because, so that that's technically included in that as a condition.
Well, I thought it was included
Yeah, I thought it
in
was
that.
in here.
It's, it says that I believe.
It's in the
It's
governor's.
in the governor's thing, but you should, the board should actually accept that condition as well.
Yeah, but I thought it was
That
in
is-
here.
that's your
Maybe it's
design.
30, Doc, I remember.
It is 60 days. There's no question about that. That's in the executive order. It's in Executive Order 50.
Hey, did you know exactly where it is?
I do. Bill's right. It's Executive Order 50. But in the decision, no. And I think what Bill's thinking about is, again, we keep getting, I'm in the same way. We were talking earlier about temporary outdoor dining. And separate from this, we need to come back, and for temporary outdoor dining guidelines, we're going to want to add that 60 days. But that's
For
separate
everyone,
from
not
that.
just for this one.
Yeah, and I think we
Yeah,
need to look
that's
at
this one.
those regulations
That's
as
something
a whole.
we want to do for all the other restaurants, so that if, everything happens to end on August 1st, consistent with the governor's order, but that's separate. So that's, it's hard to keep them separate, but, yeah.
So we don't need to say the 60 days in here. It's not in here. That's what you're comfortable with it being in the order.
Right, because it's in the order, so we're
In the order
basically
anyway,
following,
so-
because if the state takes it
And
away.
I'm sorry if I
and it
confused
doesn't-
you, but that would address everybody's situation, not just this one.
Okay.
Sorry, I mentioned it to Bill this morning when we were talking about this, so I totally planted this in his head, and I apologize, Bill.
You did, it's all your fault.
I was thinking of like both things at once, so.
So yeah, I think all of the conditions are all the ones that we discussed at the last meeting, and all additional ones that have been brought up, so I'm fine with all of these.
Ed, you good with conditions too?
Yes, the conditions.
And I'm pretty sure too, from our last meeting, any of the abutters and stuff, they were, we read through the list of everything and everybody, seemed to be happy with the direction we were going,
Most.
most.
Okay, Leah.
All right, so with that, motion to approve the conditions to issue 30 one-day beer and wine alcohol licenses for Shoveltown Brewery, Inc., DBA A Taste of Foxborough, as proposed.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? So, Bill, how would we word the, just move to approve a fee?
Well, your fee currently is $50 per day for a one-day license. The question is, does the board want to apply that same fee rate to all? It would certainly be true for the first 30 as it is, unless you were to amend that. But if it goes to any licenses beyond that, the question is, would there be additional, or if the board wants to just come up with a different number altogether?
And there's only 26 on here. Is there any reason you didn't include that last weekend, July 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, that would have taken you straight to an exact 30? I mean, do we need to add those or any comment there?
Yeah, so I think it's because I broke them up into three, licenses, and I just spread it across the three, assuming we were going to get the three. So, yeah, I guess I would ask you to approve it for the full 30 days.
Yeah, so this only goes through July 5th, but then you have one more weekend, which would be 4 days, the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, that are not on this application, that would get you to exactly 30.
Yeah, again, I think the reason I did that was because to split it up amongst the three licenses. So yeah, if the board could approve it for the full 30 days, amend the application so it reflected the full 30 days, that's certainly what we would want to do.
Yeah, just because the motion says 30 one day, but we only have 26 in front of us, so.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay, so that'll take you guys through the 11th then, given Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then those 2 holidays.
Correct.
Sorry, 1 holiday, 2 holidays. July 5th is counting as a holiday too,
That's correct.
which that's not really a holiday. I guess it's observed by the.
Observed.
Yeah.
It's observed.
Yeah,
that day,
it's
that's correct.
the federal holiday is
Yep.
on the Monday.
Okay, so let me just amend that then. Or do we need to do anything? Are we good?
I think you should amend it. You
Okay.
should amend it.
All right, so motion to approve the conditions to issue 30 one-day beer and wine alcohol licenses to Shoveltown Brewery, DBA, A Taste of Foxborough, as amended. The dates being added to the application are July 8th, July 9th, July 10th, and July 11th, to take it to 30.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I mean, I personally think it's just easy to do $500 for each of the 30-day licenses, set fee versus a per day fee.
I mean, that's the direction I was going. I mean, we're looking at a new business, like I said, coming to town. Not only this one, but, at the old firehouse, and within a year's time, we're gonna be looking for almost $10,000 from them. I just think it's a little excessive.
I'd be willing to maybe apply a piece of that to it, but,
Goes to 5,000?
yeah, maybe the balance or something, but,
I actually thought of that as a
What
as a way of
if we just
offsetting
say, give us $5,000 and you're good for this and the next one? We get $5,000 up front. I mean, again, you're talking a business that's investing over the long haul a lot of money in this community, and we're gonna charge them almost $10,000 within a year.
I mean, but now there's not a lot of fees to set up like you would opening a normal restaurant. I mean, I completely see both sides. I
I guarantee they're spending a fortune on these trailers and stuff.
Yeah. No, I think to
You know,
keep it.
building permits and other things, we're paying all those fees too.
Yeah, I think $500 per 30-day license just keeps it
And you know,
simple.
I do have to say something because I went back and watched like the Board of Health meetings on this and in our meetings. And we have somebody coming into town new. And I mean, these guys have been put through the ringer. And when this is all said and done, whatever board is here is going to say, oh, welcome to Foxborough, glad you're here. But I mean.
Next year, you mean?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, if you look at some of those meetings, the Board of Health meeting, I mean, they were grilling them, and they're doing their job, which is good, but, you know, again, $10,000 in a liquor license fee over a year, to me, is pretty excessive.
Any concerns with it not being posted on our agenda or anything? I mean, I know I wasn't prepared I was not mentally thinking we were making a motion tonight on fees. I thought that was going to come on the next vote.
We had talked about the last meeting, talking about it at this meeting.
Yeah, I agree with Chris.
Okay.
I thought it was
Yeah,
natural.
we said
finish the
let's-
Yeah, just the
conversation.
motion's not here, it's not on the agenda about the fees, so just making sure that there's no concerns there, you know?
It was talked about the last meeting as part of the process, so.
Yeah. So, so again, I'm back to you, Bill. How do we best word?
Well, the
are
motion,
we-
if you wanted to do a motion, the motion would be to move to well, first of all, it's not clear to me what you want to do.
$500 per
Okay.
30-day.
Right. So it'd be a motion to approve a $500 fee for the 30-day licenses for Shoveltown's temporary pop-up brewery.
And do we want to, like, do anything with putting a cap overall, so it's not specific to one business, or?
Well,
just thinking?
this is a temporary pop-up, and it's, if you want to add the COVID language or the governor's language, that probably is a good thing too, because.
Well, I mean, more so just like that we're
So we
amending
don't
the fees to 500 cap for any 31-day licenses.
I think we should address it because, again, these 1 days are designed for 1 day.
Yeah.
You know, we have businesses use them for consecutive 1 days. You know, this is the longest we've ever had. Wormtown, yeah, that was, you know, it was a longer duration.
I would caution you to not expand it beyond the scope of this discussion, because I think you get beyond that, now you do have to add it as an agenda item. Because I think, as long as it's within the scope and it applies to this particular license, I think
We
You're
did it
okay.
for a while with the Orpheum too.
Well, we gave them a lot of trouble, though, you know? No, I don't think we ever let them go beyond 30. We were like, you only get 30, don't forget, you know.
Well, they were coming in front of us an awful lot.
I think we were like, you're almost at your 30, you got to figure this out, is how I remember it.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
They played the calendar well.
I would accept a motion, I guess, to move to approve a $500 fee for 30-day license for Shoveltown's temporary pop-up. What was the last word?
as per the, operating under the guidelines of the executive order, the governor's executive order relative to COVID-19.
Operating under the governor's
Executive order.
Order number
Executive.
50.
COVID-19 orders.
You may need to pass that to me.
Well, we could say so
Okay,
moved at
okay,
this
so,
point.
okay.
No, read it, Doc, read it.
All right. It's my scribble, so help me out. Move to approve a $500 fee for a 31-day license for Shoveltown temporary pop-up operating under the governor's executive COVID-19 orders. Did I do that right?
Second.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved. Second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Opposed?
And again, I truly welcome you to town, you know, it's just,
Totally understand.
Your passion about this issue is very clear.
See, I told you guys.
Put you through the ringer now, so welcome to town.
Welcome. She'll be the first one there.
I will.
All right, great. Hey, congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much. And I know this has been a long and drawn out process, but we truly enjoyed working with the staff and the board on this. So, while we may have been dragged through the ringer, we're probably stronger for it. And want to thank the board for all their help and support in this issue.
And thank you, Paige and Katie. I know this has
Yes.
been a lot of work for
A lot of
them.
work for them. They did a great job.
Yeah.
And thank you, Frank, and your partners for doing a great job of giving us information when we asked for it, too. We appreciate that. Good luck.
Thank you again.
Yeah, good luck. Thank
Thank you and have a good night.
We'll see you soon.
Well, hopefully.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. So next on the agenda, town manager presentation.
I think
Nope,
you've
you
got
skipped one.
Chris and Lance.
Oh, I apologize. Did I skip over that?
Yep.
Oh, there it is. Shared Winter Street spaces. Yeah. I do a combination of the computer and the written, and I didn't bring my written, so.
There you go.
Chris, you're on. Lance.
Oh, there. So I have Lance with me tonight. I know Paige is hanging on in anticipation. She's excited about this as well, so she's here too. And Ron, I see Ron's still on. I don't know if he's actually there or not, but I know some of the planning board members have some pretty good passion about the common and the traffic around there. So I see Ron on now, so we appreciate him hanging on as well. So just to give a quick recap, we kind of started out on this next phase of the common a little bit by chance. Paige had sat in on a conference about the Shared Streets grant and came across the Bar Foundation, who was offering technical assistance for the Shared Streets grant. They paired us up with Kittleson Associates out of Boston. Margaret Kent was the planner, and Alec Pachowski was the engineer that we worked with. We were before the board previously a few months back, recommended that we create a subcommittee. That subcommittee included both Ed and Stephanie from the planning board, Paige, Lieutenant Fitzgerald, Lance, and myself. And it really helped us to walk through, from an outsider's perspective, what we were looking to accomplish with this next piece on the common. We knew we had internally, everybody had their opinion on what should be done there, what the next focus was, but I think having that outsider's perspective really did help us get to that point where we are now, where we have a plan for another trial. This includes the School Street side going down towards Central Street. We walked through a few different options previously with this board. Going through that process, we put in for and received a grant of $27,000 through that Shared Streets grant program, which will let us actually buy some materials, rent some supplies, and actually walk through this trial process for the next phase of the traffic and pedestrian safety around the common. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to let Lance talk through some of the details of what that looks like, and then we'll have a quick conversation.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see you again. So what Kittleson put together here, as you can see, is sort of a redesign of the School Street portion of the Common Rotary, and including the South Street and Central Street intersection, which was of particular concern. So we're kind of trying to, do a few things here to kind of, address a few different issues that are brought to our attention. Notably, what you'll see is that the existing parking is proposed to be converted to parallel parking. Originally, when we looked at this with Stephanie and Ed and the police department, they were concerned about the reverse angle parking that was originally proposed. So, and I believe our selectmen members also shared their concerns. So we settled on parallel parking as a means to sort of free up space and increase sort of pedestrian areas and a safer walking areas for those who are, shopping in the area and visiting the common. There's parallel parking on both sides, as is proposed. So, which is convenient for those businesses that are on the non-common side, such as Shoveltown will be, and the Orpheum, and the flowers store, and what have you. So now you'll no longer be required to cross the street if you're able to acquire one of those parking spaces. In addition, as you can see down to the sort of the South Street and Central Street area, we're shortening crossing distances, and also we've expanded the lane markings down the center to prevent these sort of outer lane crossing to exit onto Central Street, which has been a bit of an issue, as I think we discussed last time with the board. So that's one of the issues we're hoping to address. But this is sort of similar to what's going on in front of the pizza parlor on the Rotary. Parallel parking exists up there already. So it will be a change. So we're definitely going to want to, put a lot of information out there to prepare people for this. It's just going to be a pilot trial test. We made that clear in the grant application. We're looking at like May 17th to May 28th, I think, Chris. Is that what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, I think we're still working on getting some of the supplies. We're looking at mid-May through probably Memorial Day weekend. Whether we pull it back before or after is kind of to be determined. One of the things that we'll be doing up here is the planters that we have around the common. We actually will be using more of those, and that was something we were able to purchase with the grant. We purchased an additional 13 planters for this trial, which will block off the angled parking spaces. Those are the green circles. I can zoom in a little bit here. These green circles will be blocking off those angled parking spaces and striping, some hash marks for the parallel parking along both sides of the common. So we're able to purchase those planters. We have those, we own them now. So that'll help delineate where the parking ends, and it'll create a safe buffer zone behind those planters for pedestrians to walk on, which was one of the things that was always a concern over the last at least 7 years since I've been here, is that there's no sidewalk, that runs in front of those parking spaces. So this will give a safe passage all the way around the common on the School Street side. And then going down towards Central Street, for the trial, we're going to stripe that as an island. We'll use cones and barrels to delineate that center, that lane line, which will prevent people from turning from that inside lane down to the outside. And as Lance said, the intention here with the islands, both at school and South, and then at Central Street, is to bump those out, to really narrow those things down so that people slow down as they're going around there, as well as reducing the crossing width for pedestrians.
So is that whole roadway now going to be one lane of traffic, or is it still two?
No, but it's still two. So through this process, the only thing that will be reduced to one lane is where it is now at the Main Street entrance. Everything else will remain two lanes all the way around. It just splits that lane so you can't exit from that inside lane going around. Once you get past Central Street, it'll stay two lanes all the way back around up to Main Street.
Okay, and with the parallel parking on both sides, are we gaining or losing any parking spots, or are we breaking even?
I think we're technically gaining one, as proposed, but
So that takes care of our parking problem downtown.
And I'm pretty sure I just got a volunteer, I think, texted my phone. I see Heather Harding is very excited for another 13 planters. I'm not sure exactly what the text message was, but I think I saw some excitement for more planters up there.
Yeah, so question on that, Chris. So is that the only thing that is stopping a car from going into that now pedestrian area?
Yeah, for this trial, it will be. We'll probably add to it just to beef it up, whether it's with caution tape or adding some extra delineators through there, whether they're cones or barrels.
Yeah, my only fear is those are like a heavy duty fiberglass type of thing, and they were already, there was one island that a couple of them were wiped out a few years back. They're not, it's not like it's a Jersey barrier to, you know, if a car hits it, it's gonna damage it or break it, so. And
Right.
they are expensive.
Right.
Do we feel good about where the crosswalks are? I know there's been talk how we don't want one at the Orpheum because it's not safe at that corner. Do we still feel good especially about that crosswalk kind of where the island is down by South Street?
Down on this corner down here.
Yeah, the one like right in front of Memorial Hall. Just because there's a lot of like lane switching there and.
Yeah, I think part of the improvement with that is bringing these islands in, you know, bringing this striping out here and then bringing this island out. You know, you're reducing that exposure time.
Yeah, I know I see on Central Street, people get to the island and the cars will keep zinging in the other lane. And I just bring that up because there is a small island in the middle of that crosswalk to make sure cars aren't still zinging once they've made it, you know, by that first lane. So the only reason I bring it up, I see it happen on Central Street.
Yeah, one of the tough things, and I think I know I've said it before, is, you know, to put a vertical structure here, whether it's curbing or an island, you know, becomes a maintenance issue, not only through the winter but year round. You know, and turning radius wise, we did have Kittleson use the Mansfield Tower truck as a turning radius, just to make sure that as if the Mansfield truck happens to be in Foxborough, they're coming down from School Street and has to make that swing onto Central Street, that, you know, in the future when these are a permanent extension, that Mansfield Tower truck doesn't get restricted at all. The wheels fit. The back end of the tower truck does hang over some of that curbing. So there is a little concern that this may be too aggressive, but something that we can work on after we see the trial, and if those are features that we want to make permanent, that we work on touching that up a little bit.
And I guess the only other thing I'd say is, I said this before, to bring one consultant in to fix the common, which I think they did. So I have to eat my words there. It all worked. We had the temporary trial. It worked. Now we have another consultant and we're making changes. I just hope it doesn't undo anything. It's almost like is the right hand talking to the left. But again, it's a temporary trial. You know, give it a whirl, see how it works. I do think that the Dairy Queen intersection is now becoming a problem, and I actually find Main Street getting backed up that way, and I almost will find myself going on Baker because that light is becoming such a disaster, and people turning out of Dairy Queen. So I know, getting ahead of myself, but that's a state piece, but it's really becoming an issue.
That's because of COVID and people in the drive-through lines.
Chris and Lance, I have two questions. So moving from School Street to Central Street, you mentioned getting a big truck through there. But what I find a lot of times is the parking that's along Central Street. Are you going to cut that a little bit further away from the Rotary? Because some of those cars go right up until the end, and I notice, me walking downtown as much as I do, some of the bigger trucks have to swing into the other lane to get around those cars. Do you know what I mean, Ed? You remember seeing that? Being on the streets once or twice?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Chris?
I do, yeah. It's this first space here, as you're on Central Street, that first parking space as you come off the common.
Yeah.
That's it. Definitely, the large trucks, I think, struggle. I think they come in a little too tight, and then they end up, you know, some of them end up crossing that double yellow line on Central Street to make the swing. I think that is something we have talked about, is getting rid of that one parking space, that first one,
Yep.
just to ease the truck traffic coming around that corner.
Yeah.
I think some of the striping will help, because right now the way this is striped is proposed, you know, pushes them out so they can actually make that swing a little bit easier if they follow the lines.
Okay.
But that first spot, if this becomes permanent, that first spot should definitely be looked at on a permanent basis to remove that.
I-
And it's easy enough to throw some barrels in it for, a 2-week trial.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, one other question, going back down to School Street. Could you re-explain, are you gonna add a couple of parking spots to School Street? Is that what I see, 5, what are they gonna be, parallel spots?
Correct. Yep. So we were
So
taking
5, 1,
the-
and 3?
Yep. So we're taking the angled spaces off of the common. We're going to make those parallel. We're able to shift the road over a couple of feet and actually gain parallel parking spaces on the storefront side. So there would be 3 spaces in front of Judy's Flower, in front of Judy's. There'd be 1 just after Judy's parking lot, and then 3 down or 5 down after Bank of America.
Again, spending as much time downtown as I do, no fear of sometimes how fast some people can whip around and down School Street, of having parallel parking on that side?
I think that lends itself to why we're doing it on a trial basis.
Okay.
There's definitely going to be a learning curve, and that's something that, we'll start putting this out to the world, social media and the website, so that people start to see what this is going to look like, with the dates included for that trial, so that they see it ahead of time. That change is a concern, but I think when we talked through it, there's already parallel parking on and around the common, so it's no different than what's there. It's just in a different location. Like Lance said, you have it in front of Stealth Street Pizza on both sides of the common.
Yep.
You have it on Central Street on both sides It really, this does fit better than the reverse angle parking did. It is just going to be a change to see how people react to it as they're coming around from Main Street or coming around the top end of the common.
Okay, I'm done. Any other questions?
How long is the trial period for? 3 weeks, you said?
We were looking at 2. That's what, when we were working through with Margaret Kent from Kittleson, that's kind of what they've been doing when they do trials. Is 2 weeks. The other thing was, I think we've had our grant funding extended, but that was kind of the end of the grant funding was May 31st. I think like the piece up at Main Street, if there are parts of it or all of it that are working, there's no reason to take it down. If there's stuff that, we notice between, engineering, planning, and public safety that day one we realize it's just not going to function the way we think it's going to, then, that stuff we can pull down pretty quickly from a safety standpoint. But I think we were looking about 2 weeks. And again, it's part of it too, is that we have to black out the white striping that's there, because we are shifting that lane over, and then that stuff we can do in-house with the highway crew, with our paint crews. So we'll do that. My thought would be that we would come in May 16th, that Sunday night, do this overnight, so that Monday morning on the 17th that this is ready to go.
Okay, Chief Grayson, Kelleher, seen this, are good with it?
Yep. So we had Lieutenant Fitzgerald in that subcommittee. He was an integral part of that. Making sure that his big safety concern was on the reverse angle parking. Actually pushed for the parallel parking to kind of match what's up there. So from the public safety team, Ken was involved and is in favor of this, and will be part of the team that's watching this as we do our trial.
We don't have a meeting that week. Any concerns with, so if it's 2 weeks and then that ends on the holiday weekend and then we don't meet till the week after, any concerns at that kind of week between?
If you would like to, this is a little flexible. Actually, let me stop sharing my screen and then we can actually talk to each other. If the thought is that, you guys want to push this out and carry it through until you have a meeting, we can certainly do that and leave it in place if it's, if it's functioning.
Yeah, so maybe end of June 6th, so we'll go, and then then we're given the 7th to kind of regroup, and then I think we meet the 8th, if I'm right.
That's correct.
I think the concern would be, would we have to remove it? If, you gave it to X date, what if it's going swimmingly and then there's a question of that 2-day gap? So perhaps it could be something where you improve it through a meeting, but then with the caveat that obviously if public safety or DPW determine, that there's any sort of hazard or issue or concern, that it can always be addressed, like Chris said.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if it would be approved through the 8th.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or even the 9th.
Our meeting's the 8th.
Yeah,
The
meeting's
8th, and then you could act on it the 9th if,
Yeah, the 8th, yeah, you're right.
Hey, just a point of clarification too, Chris, that last screen that you were sharing with all of that stuff, it would have been real helpful to have that. The 3 pages that we got, you couldn't tell what you guys were doing. I looked at it.
You got the engineering drawing, not the graphic.
Yeah, the last one that you shared that showed the parking and all that. In the future, that would definitely be more helpful.
Sure, I apologize for that. And when I went back to pull up what I was going to screen share, I realized that the engineering drawing one, and it was in black and white, and that's when I made sure I pulled up the color version, because I knew that would be more helpful.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that.
But it is helpful that you send something in advance. So.
Any other questions?
All right, so June 8th, we're good with that on my motion? Okay.
Yeah,
So it's going to start on the 17th
yeah,
on a Monday morning.
yeah. They're gonna do all the work
I'm
Sunday
taking a
night.
day off, lawn chair. I'm going to watch this.
you can do that now that you're retired as a selectman, right?
All right, so motion to approve the proposed plan for traffic pattern alteration on School Street from Main Street to South Street and South Street from School Street to Central Street by Kittleson and Associates for a trial period beginning on May 17th, 2021 through June 8th, 2021.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Paige, thank you. All right, Bill, Town Manager's presentation on the American Rescue Act.
So Christina's going to put this up on the board for you in just a second. So just to give you a little bit of backdrop, everybody's aware of the fact that the town is going to be receiving some American Rescue Plan funding from the federal government. The amount of money that's earmarked for Foxborough is $1,815,163. That's just the town's portion of that. There is an additional $750,000 roughly that's going to be earmarked for the schools. An additional amount that's coming through the county, and that's actually the more significant number, which is actually $3,568,373. And so I'll get into a presentation as to why we're a little bit concerned about this. The Norfolk County managers have been meeting, those are my colleagues, the 28 communities throughout the county, who've been talking about this for the reasons that we have a significant amount of funds that are due to us, but because they go through the county government, it requires us to actually advocate through the county to make sure the money comes actually back to us. And I'll get into the reasons why in just a second. So go ahead, Christina, if you want to just move to the next one. So the recently passed federal stimulus allocates money directly to cities and towns and counties throughout the state. Money is slated to be used for several broad areas. The response to public health emergencies with respect to COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. For the provision of government services, to the extent that the reduction is in revenue, which we have all felt pretty significantly here in Foxborough with respect to loss of revenue from the stadium and from hotel motel tax, and due to the public emergency. So to make necessary investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, which in Foxborough's case is not as significant as a need as it is in other places, because we've already addressed a lot of that, those investments already. And how, so the next one is, next slide, please. The next slide indicates how are the funds to be allocated. Well, funds are distributed on a per capita basis directly from the federal government. And what's going to happen is cities and towns in Norfolk County will receive approximately $194 per capita. So in Foxborough's case, in Foxborough's case locally, in the county basis, that's where the $137 million comes from that we'll be talking about in just a minute. There are federal CDBG mini entitlement communities such as Brockton and Quincy. They'll receive additional aid on top of that. There are 4 towns in Massachusetts hardest hit, and they are receiving additional funds from the Commonwealth, and particularly communities such as Randolph is considered with that group.
Can I just ask a question
Sure.
on this? So the federal government basically said we're getting, every town is getting $194 per person.
Right, per capita, yeah, and that's how it's distributed to the county for the county distribution.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Norfolk County, when you look at the number, when you calculate the estimate, it comes out to be, they'll be receiving about $137 million. In the counties with abolished county governments, Berkshire, Essex, Franklin, Hampden, Hampshire, Middlesex, and Worcester counties, those funds will go directly to the cities and towns in those counties. For communities such as Norfolk, for counties such as Norfolk, we have to go through the county that still exists. All right, so that applies to not only Norfolk, but Bristol County, Berkshire County, a few other places. So this substantially advantage, I'll go back for just one second, that's a substantial advantage to those communities and the ability to recover from the pandemic and make investments in their communities because they'll have the money come directly to them and not have to go through the county. Okay, next slide, please. So most of the United States operates on a county government system, which here in Massachusetts has been more or less broken up into 2 segments. Those that have county government, those that don't. And if you take a look at places like Florida and California, places like they have really substantial county governments that provide significant services, fire, police, all kinds of emergency services, and it actually have county seats of government which are pretty significant. In counties of Massachusetts, they provide registry, court, and jail services to the county, but provide limited, if any, direct services to the county residents and the communities themselves. Next slide, please. This is a small, pretty small print, so I'll try and read it to you from my own slides here. It would be almost impossible for the county to use these funds based on the way Norfolk is currently structured. It's not to say that the county may not have some of its own needs, but those needs would be primarily limited to the administrative needs of the county rather than the needs of the county's residents. Furthermore, Norfolk County does not own any water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. The county has little to no experience or administrative capacity to manage significant projects on behalf of the county's cities and towns, or with providing direct residential or economic services. The entire county budget is less than $35 million. The county lacks the administrative capacity to manage and oversee funding equal to 3 times its budget size. The limited staff and finances are also overseen by an elected treasurer who has just taken office since January of 2021. And practically speaking, Norfolk County lacks the formal experience of managing grant programs of this size and nature. I would say that in addition to that, Norfolk County's administrative position, the county administrative position, is currently vacant. And they actually have an interim person serving in that capacity. Next slide shows just a breakdown of the various communities that make up Norfolk County itself. The one there's a disconnected community, 2 disconnected really communities in terms of being contiguous. One is Brookline, the other one is Cohasset. Next slide. So why should Norfolk County transfer funds to the cities and towns in the county? Well, it is our perspective that cities and towns and the county can allocate the funds according to their local needs and local determination. The demographics of Norfolk County are so diverse that introducing new countywide programs at this point in time would prove to be ineffective and inefficient. It's interesting to point out that the county is not even contiguous in many ways. Given the current county government structure in Massachusetts and based on the current disbursement policy for sharing the federal aid, it would appear that the inequity would occur in Norfolk County did not share the majority of the aid with the county's cities and towns.
Going back to my question,
Yeah.
the federal government said every city and town is getting
Right.
$194, so why wouldn't they share it or dole it out?
Well, the reason is because because the money goes directly to the county, and they could say, you know what, we still have needs in our jail, we have needs in our county facilities, we have needs that need to be addressed, and they could say, you know, we need some of that money. But I'll explain to you, this will help me self-explanatory when I get to the end. So, revenue replacement, cities and towns have lost millions of dollars in meals, hotel, motel taxes, and payments in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilot payments. Conversely, Norfolk County is not subject to these same revenue losses since they are not collected at that level. Program revenues for cultural and social activities for cities and towns have been decimated by the pandemic. Norfolk County government has not felt this impact since those services are not offered on a countywide basis. COVID response costs. While Norfolk County agencies, including the registry, courts, jail, and Norfolk Aggie School, are all impacted by the COVID crisis, it was local public health and safety that bore the brunt of the governmental response throughout the county. Many communities will continue to incur substantial costs for vaccinations, contact tracing, monitoring food insecurity, housing and rental assistance, mental health services, and more. Norfolk County does not provide any of these services directly to residents of the county at this time. Now, on the basis of infrastructure and water, sewer, storm and sewer and broadband, Norfolk County does not own any significant water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure that funds could be used on. Communities in the county have substantial costs and deferred maintenance in these areas. Communities have shouldered added costs in other areas that do not impact Norfolk County in rising water, sewer usage, solid waste usage, and other taxing of budget lines and infrastructure that will drain investment from these areas, making additional funds more necessary. The next slide gives you an idea of how this is impacting, how this affects Foxborough. So if we were to not receive the allocation from the county, which, and quite honestly, I do think we will receive an allocation. I'm not sure what the final number will be. But our direct aid was $1,815,163. With the addition of the $3,565,373 that we're supposed to receive from the county, that gives us a total of $5,383,536 that we would receive from federal aid with those combined allocations. And you can see what's happened in some of our neighboring communities as well. So what is it? In terms of recommendations, it is the Norfolk County manager's position collectively that Norfolk County via the county commissioners should transfer all funds received directly to the towns in the county via the same per capita formula utilized by the federal government for non-county communities in Massachusetts. In other words, treat us the same as the non-county communities. This will help to ensure proper tracking, allocation, accounting, and the efficient intended use of these funds. If the county identifies a dollar threshold of funds it could utilize, this amount of money could then be granted back to the county via countywide intermunicipal agreement, granting said funds to the county. This is an action that is allowed under the ARP, the American Rescue Plan. Select boards and city councils in Norfolk County could sign the Norfolk County ARP funds resolution, forward it to the county commissioners, and lobby them for their support of this action. And moving on so let me just tell you why it's problematic for the county at this point, and it's a challenge for them to consider this, because the old saying is if you're in for an ounce, you're in for a pound. So what happens effectively is that if they decide, Norfolk County decides that they want to take the money directly and then allocate it out to the various cities and towns, and then spend some of the money for themselves, they then become responsible for the entire administration of the $137 million grant. If we were to take the money directly and then allocate money back to them through an intermunicipal agreement, which I think would probably work, then they wouldn't be responsible for the accounting of that money. We would be responsible on our level and probably through the state to manage it. So it'd be a lot easier for them as well, and be more effective for us. Current next steps. The Norfolk County Municipal Manager has met with our counterparts and have begun the dialogue with Norfolk County to determine how ARP funds should be allocated to the communities within the county. Elected officials in each of the Norfolk County communities are encouraged to sign the ARP funds resolution and forward it to the county commissioners. Residents in each of Norfolk County communities are encouraged to write their elected county commissioners and request to allocate their ARP funds directly to the communities in Norfolk County. Now, I will tell you, in terms of the next steps, I think the only one that we're really focused on right now is the first one. We've begun discussions with the county. We've discussed it with the acting county commissioner. The acting county commissioner has in turn talked with the commissioners themselves, and they themselves are taking this matter under advisement at this time. I do not think it's necessary for us to sign the resolution at this moment, though I do think it's something we should take a look at in 2 weeks to see if any movement has occurred on that level. I also think that that if that happens and nothing's been happening on that level, then I think we would move to phase 2 and 3, which is sign the resolution and then also send along letters of support from the community to try and get the commissioners to see how important sending the money to us would be from our perspective. I do think that I don't want to force the commissioners into a corner, but I do think, because I do think that they're giving this very thoughtful consideration, and I do think that it's something that we should just allow them some time to think it through and give them the proper time that they deserve to try and make this decision very thoughtfully. So we're trying to help the best we can, but we don't. But by the same token, we also want to be clear that we think the majority of those funds should be coming back to the cities and towns directly. So that concludes my presentation for tonight on this point, Mr. Chairman. I do, and members of the board, I do want to thank you for your attention to this. It's a very important issue which we're pushing very hard to try and resolve, because it is obviously, it's a significant amount of money for us directly, and I think that we would certainly have a significant benefit by having it in our hands for obvious reasons. I do want to take a brief moment to offer my condolences to a longtime friend and colleague who I worked with in Norfolk County. A former county commissioner, Fran O'Brien, died over the weekend. Fran was about 92 years old. He just literally stepped down as a county commissioner in January of this year, believe it or not. He was quite active with the county as a county commissioner, and he also served as chairman of that committee for a number of years. I worked very closely with him while I was in Dedham, and sorry to see him go. He's a really well-liked guy and did a lot for public service. And again, my condolences to him and his family, given the circumstances that they just endured. So, thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? It was a good presentation.
Yeah.
Knowledgeable.
What's the status of the money right now? Does the federal government still have it and they haven't just?
Yeah, so the way that the $1.8 million that we're going to receive directly, we should be seeing that money sometime in May. The reason why we haven't been given a date is because the federal government, the federal treasury has not come out with the guidelines on how the money can be used. But I'm told that the money will be allocated to us in May. Congressman Auchincloss's office has been terrific about keeping us informed about all the various steps of that. So we've been very fortunate to have that level of representation. And then also, it will come in 2 disbursements. One is a $900,000 disbursement this year, in this fiscal year, and another $900,000 next fiscal year. So we'll see it in two payments. As far as it's unclear to me how the $3.5 million payment would be made, if it becomes 3.5. But even if it was $3 million, it would still be a significant boon to us. So it's unclear to me if that comes in one payment or it comes in 2. So we're waiting to hear clarification on that point as well. Okay.
Obviously, you'll keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And
certainly will.
Be part of your updates going forward, I think.
And we've been talking on a regular basis with the County Managers Association to stay on top, as well as the MMA and the state. And our representative delegation as well, state senator, state representative have been involved in this issue as well for us. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And then you're on again.
All right, so just a couple quick things. I did receive notification from Matt Brennan today that the district plans to begin aerial application on Wednesday, April 28th, which is tomorrow, weather permitting, in targeted wetlands for spraying from the, which is a granular application, not liquid, that is performed each spring to eliminate mosquito larvae and on the wetlands. This is done by the state, by the way. So they come out, mosquito control comes out and does this. Attaches an updated map for the wetlands to be treated in our town, which he has. And we will forward this to the fire and police departments who's in dispatch as well. The district will contact public safety departments in the morning to the application, letting them the helicopter will be working in those wetlands. So there'll be if you hear a helicopter flying overhead low, you'll know what it is, so that everybody's aware of that.
We get like a Facebook post to go up from the town, that, just a quick,
I have this right here, and I'll give it
yeah, it
to
doesn't have to be
Christina.
anything fancy, but just,
Yep.
because that comes up every time everyone asks what it is.
Exactly. So, and then I just wanted to say that we had a very successful grand opening of the Semrick Center on last week, and several of the board members could make it. Those who were around, I mean, some of you were away, so I appreciate that as well. And the meeting, except for the weather, it didn't cooperate as well, but it was a great day, and I think everybody was pretty impressed with the facility and the outcome that we achieved. So,
I gotta say, Leah or Steph, if you're listening,
yeah.
get a chance, have Bill take you out
Yeah.
there. It's
it's
truly a remarkable place.
Yeah.
State of the art, technology and plenty of room to grow. There's already communities, I'm sure Bill
Yeah.
can tell us that
I have a meeting this week with the Semrick staff to talk about some of the new communities that are interested in expressing a desire to join the region.
really is an incredible facility.
So we'll be hearing more about that as well. Okay. All right. That's all I have, I believe, Mr. Chairman. Oh, just one thing I did want to note that Snyder Electric did offer some new cabinets or file cabinets or used cabinets to the Historic Commission. They were valued around $80, so obviously you didn't need to approve that, but I did approve it at my level. There is a water restriction that's been imposed by DEP, so don't get mad at the local water department. This is not their issue. But I want everybody to be aware that we are in a drought, level 2 drought condition, believe it or not. Even though that it's the season starting early this year, DEP has made that declaration, and therefore watering is limited to a hose only, and it's from before 9 o'clock and after 5 o'clock at night. So we are in that condition again, which is unfortunate, but really what's really truly unfortunate is that we have plenty of water. That's not, I don't want anybody to think that we have a lack of water. We have plenty of water, but the state only allows so much to be taken out of the ground by virtue of our permit. So we have to really be careful about how that works. Just want to make you aware. And so we unfortunately had to cancel a car wash that was planned for one of the high school kids, one of the high school groups because of that, but just wanted to pass that along as well. And I think that is it. Anything else, Mike, can you think of? Good. Christina, anything else?
The annual report will be up on the town
Thank you.
website online by the end of this week. And the printed copies will most likely be delivered at the end of next week. And once they are, I'll make that available for people to be able to come and pick them up.
I will say that we did make an executive decision about this, that we decided we're going to, on the online version will be the salary tables for all the employees. It's about 30 pages, it's several pages long. So it didn't make sense to print all that because it's an expense. And then it'll be on the online version. It will not be in the book, but it is on the online version. So I want to make everybody aware of that. So we're not trying to hide it, it just didn't make sense to print it all in the back of the book.
That's the pages that everybody goes to.
I know, that's what everybody looks at. So, and we knew that, but now it's online, you'll be able to see it that way. Okay.
How about town meeting and the election? I feel like we haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah, so I was gonna let you guys talk
And even
about that.
I went out to the town's website, there's nothing on the homepage, it's not on the meetings calendar, so I think we should,
We're gonna work on these for the next several days. We're
Okay.
gonna be doing daily updates on that. But
I know the signs are out by DPW.
yeah,
yeah.
Town elections, May 3rd. I was going to bring that up. Don't forget to go out and vote May 3rd, town elections, May 10th, annual town meeting. Leah, you had a
Yeah, just along the lines of the town meeting, if you don't mind, just first. I think last time, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you work with Bob and Frank to have like a one-page document about like, you're gonna come in this door and we're gonna do it like this?
No.
Did Bob's office?
That was his
Okay.
office.
Okay, so, maybe if you can work with them just to like, informing the community of what it's gonna look like, making sure people feel safe coming to town meeting. However we can help communicate that, because I know we like live and breathe this, but town meeting and elections not always on everyone's mind unless we kind of push it out and keep reminding people about it and making them feel safe coming to the meeting.
So I really appreciate you all mentioning that, because we have been working around the clock effectively to try and get everything squared away for town meeting. We met yesterday at length to go over the motions with the town moderator and the clerk to identify things that we should just, get ready for town meeting to make sure it's foolproof for the most part. There are a couple things which we'll have to address with everyone, because it's the matter in which the moderator would like to see these things be presented. So I will address those situations as they evolve, but we will continue to have everything ready. We did talk about how the room is going to be set up. It is going to follow a similar path that it had last year.
So we'll come in by the library and then go around?
I believe so. I have not seen the actual details, but the way it was explained to me yesterday was that we would follow the same type of approach. I don't think he's going to have to need as many places cordoned off, because the number of people in the room is higher than it was prior to this and this last time, and then also more people are vaccinated, so it is a safer environment in that respect. The other important thing, of course, is the election which election in this town actually starts the town meeting process, town meeting cycle. So the town meeting actually starts to begins on May 3rd and ends with the actual town meeting itself, which is on May 10th. And the elections will be held at the middle school, starting at 7 a.m. in the morning and ending at 8 o'clock at night. The only race I'm aware of is in the school committee, if I'm not mistaken. And then the second thing is that town meeting will occur at 7:30 at the high school. So anybody who's a registered voter in the town and has registered as a registered voter will be eligible to attend the meeting on May 10th. And at that point, in that meeting, we address the budget, capital plan, and a total of 27 articles that have been put before the town to act on. Okay.
Great. And any other? I've got one more. Chris, we've been hinting around that this is your last Board of Selectmen meeting.
It is.
We all officially want to thank you
Oh.
for your 6 years of service, your intelligence, your insight into everything, the way you always had a calm way of talking about an issue. I personally think of you as my mentor, following in your footsteps.
Oh, that's a scary thought, Doc.
But thank you. Thank you very much for your 6 years.
I appreciate it. It was fun. Appreciate it all.
I'm not sure you really mean that. No. So if I could just say on behalf of all the staff members who worked with Chris and all the town employees and all the department heads and everybody who's really had an opportunity to work with Chris, it's been a great experience. So I really want to say thank you. We've really, I think I shocked him the first time he became chairman as to how difficult and challenging the role can be at times. It was a big commitment at the time, and we dealt with some very difficult,
Remember my
challenging
first meeting or second meeting? I was chairman.
Yeah.
My second meeting 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
It was an interesting time for all of us, but we made it through, and I appreciate the calm demeanor that you displayed during that time. It was not an easy time, and you did a great job, so thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys and all the other board members that have served with, and really every other volunteer that makes this town Foxborough. Appreciate it. Now I'll be golfing every Tuesday night.
You're joining a league, I hope, right?
My daughter and I are going to be playing every Tuesday.
There you go. Good for you. Good for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. All right,
All right.
All right, move to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
All right?
Amen.
Last time Chris has to raise his hand. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.